The moon of Earth is not an ordinary satellite. At first, its existence only brought about curiosity and imaginations. However, as astronomy developed and humankind gained a different perspective on the world around them, the moon emerged as a wondrous entity that we had never thought of before. So what makes our moon so special? The moon is not only the proper name for Earth's natural satellite, it is also the common name for satellites of other planets in our solar system like Jupiter and Saturn, which have gigantic bodies that create super strong gravity, resulting in a consequence. To talk about that consequence, we need to look at the structure of our home planetary system, the solar system. The solar system includes the central sun, star and smaller planets revolving around it. However, not all planets in the solar system were formed by absorbing masses of matter from the giant nebular clouds that created the sun. Radiation bursting out from the star blew away the clouds, causing them to drift farther, clumping together to form planets, or maybe land and rock, some closer to the center, accumulating over time to become rocky planets. However, apart from those planets, there are still asteroids that are too tiny to clump together into larger masses. Due limited mass, these asteroids cannot absorb other asteroids to form larger shapes. Hence, they can only be manipulated by surrounding planets. Asteroids near giants like Jupiter and Saturn get pulled in and mostly crash straight into the planets, burning up and vanishing and turning into meteors. Meanwhile, the luckier ones will hover around those planets and become kidnapped satellites. But that is not the only fate for asteroids. Most rest in our solar system still maintain their positions revolving around the sun because they lie on the belt between Mars and Jupiter. This is where the sun's gravity balances out with Jupiter's expansiveness, so these asteroids are barely affected. However, occasionally there will still be some asteroids in this area pulled out of their belt and shot straight into endless space of the universe, or conversely, shot right into Earth, then collide into our planet. The strain of these celestial bodies is not accidental, but it cycles depending on the orbital correlations between Jupiter and the Sun. For that reason, ancient astronomers wondered if our asteroids were the only victims. After humans successfully landed on the Moon around the 20th century and came back with collected samples from the natural satellite, some experiments were carried out to study the material on this planetoid. The results stunned most astronomers. By some miraculous way, lunar material and terrestrial material had so many identical points in terms of chemistry and isotopes, although the origins of the two celestial bodies were certainly tied together. This coincidence forced researchers to find an answer to the question of whether or not the Earth and Moon used to be one. This was an extremely important moment in astronomy, because it was the first time we truly had evidence to infer the origin of the Moon. Before Neil Armstrong set foot on it, we could only speculate where our satellite came from. The prevalent hypothesis was that it was a kidnapped satellite, like how Jupiter had pulled in celestial bodies to make its own. Some other researchers believed that it could have been a celestial body formed together with Earth when matter rotating the planet was pulled in by gravity to form the asteroid belt like Saturn, then gradually transforming into the present-day satellite. And others such as George Darwin instead believed that Earth and the Moon used to be one. However, the above assumptions could not explain why Enigma would say coincidentally matched terrestrial material. The differences between the two celestial bodies were not enough to confirm they had absolutely no relation, so it was completely overruled that the Moon must have once been part of the blue planet. Throughout the 70s and 80s, the debate over the Moon's origin grew even more intense. At first, upon realizing lunar material contained less water than other asteroids, astronomers understood that the Moon had formed under high temperatures, possibly for a giant collision. From there, they proposed the hypothesis that a small planet had collided with Earth during the primordial stage, and that destructive collision had destroyed both celestial bodies, mixing their materials together. The remnants of that collision had created the Moon. At the time this hypothesis was introduced, there were a lot of opposing opinions against it. Pite believed the existence of the tiny planet hitting Earth seemed implausible. The rest did not believe such a collision could leave a small amount of materials in space to form the Moon. Regarding the latter, Scientists had simulated the collision to measure which size and orbit would make a collision with the hypothetical planet plausible for producing a result like our moon, and indeed with a protoplanet temporarily named Theia. Collision with Earth had the capability of birthing a celestial body like our moon. As for Theia's existence, this was the most controversial assumption, but there is also much evidence protecting it. Firstly, around 4.5 billion years ago, when planets had just formed, there was a Mars-sized planet named Theia that had been influenced by the Sun and Jupiter's gravity to veer off its original orbit and collide into Earth. The mechanism causing the smaller planet to hit powerful is similar to how asteroids are pulled out of the asteroid belt by Jupiter and flung right into the blue planet. Hypotheses and simulations about this collision do not truly prove the moon's origin, but this is the most suitable explanation for what we observe as this satellite. Thanks to that collision, the moon and the Earth now share the same spin direction. Thanks to that collision, Earth is tilted at 23 degrees, resulting in seasons throughout the year. Finally, and just as importantly, the moon is large enough that when asteroids fall into our orbit, it can appear and shield us from unanticipated catastrophes. But does our moon really have effects on us? Before the concept of clocks existed, humankind had to use astronomical observations to distinguish between night and day. Of course, the bright sky is called day while the dark sky is called night. But how can we know how long until the sky brightens again? This is when the moon becomes a useful tool for us, just like the sun. As the moon so passes through the sky and when it nearly finishes crossing the horizontal line, we can understand that nighttime is nearly over. Via this mechanism, ancient people were able to use the moon like a tool to indicate time of day. Over centuries of social development, great minds had gathered enough information about the moon to know that it has many different shapes depending on the time frame. The changes from crescent to full circle, then abruptly vanishing in our sky, were recorded by ancient humankind and passed down verbally to later generations in order to establish a certain intellect on time. Around 30,000 years ago, we had known that one lunar cycle corresponds to 8 phases or 8 states of order: moon, waxing crescent, first quarter; waxing gibbous, full moon; waning gibbous, third quarter; waning returning. These 8 moon phases were the first basis for us to begin establishing what is referred to as a month. Initially, this concept was created with a sum to calculate days for events like tides to harness agriculture in order to facilitate farming. To calculate or quantify in the languages of ancient India, 1 month corresponds to 129.5 days in a cycle. Many ancient and medieval countries use lunar calendars to calculate days in a year. In our country, this is the lunisolar calendar with very precise calculations on lunar cycles. However, because a year cannot be calculated as 29.5 days with an extra fractional day over time, the calendar would shift and seasons would change. Hence, over the span of human history, there have been many improvements to the calendar from lunar to solar, with changing numbers of months per year from 8 to 10, then finally 12 like today. Although the Gregorian calendar nowadays is the most optimal to calculate agriculture cultivation seasons and auspicious times throughout the year, we still predominantly use the lunisolar calendar, a lune calendar, because it aligns monthly. However, that is not the only gift from lunar cycles. From the time of ancient Greece, brilliant minds of Aristotle and Pliny debated the preposterous concept that the moon pulls starts up, so the brain, which consists of water, must be affected by lunar cycles, as well solar cycles, so to relate to solidity. This correlation has no scientific grounds whatsoever, and no way to prove beyond unreasonable faith. However, that was the premise for many debates on the moon's impact on insanity. This debate influenced language formation, as the Latin word for moon, lunum, became the basis for lunatic or loony in English today. On top of that, the moon's existence has often been tied to mainstream cultural code products related to ghosts, evil spirits roaming at night like werewolves and witches, etc. This association usually has no direct relation to the moon itself. Humans are just afraid of darkness and naturally associate nighttime with ghosts and evil on their own. Moon has no fault. Please do not blame Sister Moon. The above has been the story of planet Earth's moon. What do you think? Does this satellite arouse your curiosity? And would you like to hear more about the tale of our moon? Please share with us in the comments below. This is not the conclusion to the journey involving the moon. We still have other moons and other moons we have yet to discover out there in the endless universe. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to us and click a notification bell to not miss any videos in the future. Additionally, you can support us directly via the support button or join button below to join membership and receive exclusive premium videos. Thank you everyone for listening and see you next time. Peace.